What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be taking a look over here at the Bitcoin price chart as the price sits at $110,000. And with it being Friday, August 29th, it'll be the last trading day for the United States stock market for August, pointing to whether we're going to have an all-time high monthly close over here for the Dow Jones Industrial Average and a confirmed breakout of the last retracement level over here for the Russell 2000. Swapping over here to the monthly time frames, you can see that this Russell would have broken through the 702 and the 786 retracement levels here in the month of August. So looking to see if we can close here. We're going to have inflation data coming out today. We'll see how that impacts the charts throughout the day. And essentially, you would have to see a nearly 3 to 4% drop in the Russell in order for it to lose that, which would be a substantial amount to happen in one day. So I doubt it. We're likely going to get that close here happening today for the stock market. That, of course, is pivotal over here for the cryptocurrency market, as we have the altcoin market and we have the Russell 2000 attempting to fight against that 2021 all-time high, awaiting for something to get it to shoot its way out of here. It's very unlikely that we're coming back up here for a third time to not be able to get through, but there can be struggling that happens up in there. And it's really our big moment for where the crowd probably comes pouring back in, but we have to be able to get out of there first in order for that to happen. If you caught markets in the morning on Wednesday, we talked about Ethereum kind of being in the dumb money zone in here when we were live streaming. Expectations on this, if this is like a running flat that's happening in here back at the all-time high for Ethereum, is that it would shift to the lows. Probably throughout the weekend, we probably won't see much coming out of Ethereum, even if it does dip into another low in here into the 4200s, or if it just waddles in here. It's probably waiting until September, which sounds far away, but September's 3 days away from right now. Not to say it's going to be September 1st, but you get what I'm saying. September's 3 days away. Conceptually, that idea over here for Ethereum, with it being a running flat and attempting to break through the high here at $4,900. If you recall this from Bitcoin back in 2020, it also had a running flat as it got back to the peak in order to break out and go into actual expansion. So it's not uncommon to see price behavior happen like this. And what we're seeing, a lot of times we can range throughout these things before the true weight gets lifted off the shoulders. And if you recall that from Bitcoin back here in 2023 in October, we always said once we got above that $32,000, it would be like the weight of the market is lifted off of your shoulders. It really would be that exact same way if that happened here for Ethereum, because that's also where the altcoin market is. It's up here at the all-time high from 2021. And of course, the weight of the market would be lifted off everybody's shoulders if we were able to bust through here, right? So we're just like one tick away from getting that. But at the same time, of course, we're at the biggest resistance of the cryptocurrency market's history at the 2021 all-time high. So it's a lot of fingernail biting as we're trying to get through this and to see if we potentially get some additional surprise, right? We have a pretty decent narrative to run off of with the market pricing in that we are going to see a rate cut there on September 17th. The 2-month yield, the one that has been the most accurate at predicting what the Fed is going to do, has been stuck in here since December all the way here until August, a solid 8 to 9 months. It finally is breaking down like the Fed is going to actually be cutting at that next meeting. But will we get some type of catalyst to show up, like an Elon Musk, a Tesla buying Bitcoin to their balance sheet type event like happened back in 2021? That is the true spark to be able to bring out the euphoria and bring the crowd back into this market. We're really right at that cusp. Fortunately, right, we've got the United States stock market cooperating. These things are always necessary ingredients. I've been writing my newsletter all week, putting all of this together. These things are incredibly important, and we've got them so far. It's, of course, vitally important to see that Bitcoin dominance breaking down, implying that we're entering into that type of environment for the altcoin market. But as we head into this 3-day weekend, this is where we're going to sit before we go into it. We are at the 2021 all-time high for the altcoin market. We are near the 2021 all-time high for the Russell 2000. If I had to draw any parallels to where we are at with this market, it's like being back at the all-time high for Bitcoin back in late 2020, but still fingernail biting at the same time, like we need that last break to come from macro markets at the exact same time, or at least a rotational top happening where breadth is opening and it's at least the Russell 2000 being the one participating. When it comes to the XRP price chart, I don't see anything too exciting in here. And I think a lot of this is just going to be dictated by what the next move is for Bitcoin. Whether Bitcoin is just finding support on top of that previous high in here for a parabolic push, or is this going to end up being more of like a retracement that happens for Bitcoin? I still think we're waiting on that answer to come right in here on if we just got the weakest parabolic push for Bitcoin humanly possible, or if this is an expanded flat ABC correction that's just backtesting the previous high. This answer has to show itself here in the coming days or weeks, likely days, which I think will likely determine if this is more of just a fourth wave in here that is a typical crash, retrace, reaccumulation. As you guys know, we typically have the crash, the retrace back to retracement levels, reaccumulation, and then breakout. That is what we had back in 2020 heading into 2021, that this was a crash, retrace, reaccumulation that went for an extension. Or if this is a more daunting setup in here that simply sweep the highs, Bitcoin topped, everything's doomed, and so goes XRP. And that was it. We all got duped by the case coming to an official end, and that it hit the 702 retracement exactly as the case ends, brought in euphoria and excitement, and that's it. I will say, that's not my base case, right? I look to the rest of the market and I see these environments happening in here, and I see the Russell 2000 and the altcoin market and this big fight happening over in here. And it's highly unlikely that you're going to get this and this market isn't going to go. I just can't reflect on a time in my life where I've seen a chart do a crash, a retrace, a reaccumulation, then go back to the all-time high and it not end with a breakout and not end with the market pushing. But of course, we still have to get that in order for that to occur for the market. And technically speaking, this is just a crash, retrace, reaccumulation that can just be a wave 4 happening in here, like just shown all throughout here. But as of at this moment in time, with where Bitcoin is currently right now, I definitely have nothing implying anything to me here on the XRP price chart that anything is like ramping up or any type of strength is happening here right now. It seems like what we desperately need in order for this chart to be able to do anything is you need this. And of course, that goes against a lot of the narratives out there, goes a lot against the partnerships and the secrets upon secrets and the conspiracies and the $1,000 price targets and all that type of stuff. I just try to go based on data. When things happen, liquidity flows, where are we at? We desperately need the Russell 2000 to escape. We need the altcoin market to escape, and that will set up a very positive environment for the XRP price chart to just go ahead and rip to the outside. But till then, we're waiting for this thing to resolve itself and to see if this is just an expanded flat or if we're already beyond the top. If we're already beyond the top, this becomes a retracement play. If not, then we're setting up for a very exciting time ahead. My thoughts are we're probably favoring the very exciting time ahead just because of what's happening with the Russell and what's happening over here with Ethereum. It would just make sense that we probably have a couple of days to just kind of chill out in here. And then as we get into September, awaiting another additional surprise to hit the market, that you've got just positive environments stacked on top of themselves, on top of themselves, on top of themselves, but some type of additional surprise to happen, right? You've essentially got almost every narrative you could possibly need for retail investors to start feeling more comfortable. When I reflect back on 2021, even when Bitcoin broke out from its all-time high of $20,000 and it got to like $35,000, $37,000 and then consolidated in that range, there was still a ton of fear up there that the cycle was actually over at that time. And I'm referring to right in here. But then came that one catalyst, came the Elon Musk narrative, and then that's what sent the market into euphoria. And that's what drew in the retail crowd right there at the very end, right? No retail all throughout here. I clearly remember it very well. The crowd was still very nervous, very uncomfortable when we were back at the all-time high, but the crowd didn't start pouring in until the all-time high got broken. And then the crowd really poured in once Elon Musk came in. So right now we have the favorable conditions happening over here in macro markets, but we're still awaiting that final break on things like Ethereum, as we've just shown over in here, all the structural setups that you would want to see happening in here. But that, of course, is a product of the entire altcoin market at the exact same time, which is also a product of the Russell 2000. So long story short, pivotal deciding moment over here for Bitcoin as we head into the holiday weekend. We have the narratives that we want for things like rate cuts, but we're also at the pivotal pivotal moment here for the Russell 2000 as well to get the break at the exact same time. Get this break and it just becomes game on for the whole market. Seems pretty likely to me that we're eventually going to get it, but it's just a patience game right now to get the actual break. And it's like fingernail biting. It's the high anxiety moment. It's right there. It's not out. The conditions are favorable. They're lining up. The Russell's trying to go for it. The Dow's out. The narratives are lining up, but we got to get the break. And right now, the thing I'll be paying attention to is to just see if we can get this. Like, can it be this simple, right? If it just ends up being an expanded flat happening over here for Ethereum, it's just going to swoop these lows here one more time throughout the weekend, hold the lows, and then as we head into next week, we get the actual breakout happening in September. That's what I'm going to be watching for. That's what I'm looking forward to. And all of that, like, worry back at the highs, all this Russell talk, all this stuff comes to a conclusion upon the actual break of this moment. And people will say, oh, see, it always takes Ethereum to be the one to break that ends up leading the way. But the reality is, it's not just Total 2 that's way up here on its own, which does include Ethereum. It's also Total 3 that's way up in here. And this is the altcoin market excluding Ethereum. And so while, yes, it would happen with Ethereum and everybody would say, see, I told you it has to be Ethereum, it would just kind of be a product of all the things happening at the exact same time. You'd have the Russell going, you'd have Ethereum going, you would have the altcoin market, Total 3 going all at the same time. It would be a confluence event all happening. And right now, the confluence event is, hey, they're all stuck right underneath the all-time high. And the confluence we're all waiting for is to see if we can get the bust out and the breakout to happen into the all-time high and finally get that mysterious non-existent crowd to come pouring back in like they typically do when they feel like it's free, easy money. When it's hard, when it's trying to grind your way back up to the highs, the crowd doesn't care. But once you get out into the all-time highs and the crowd thinks it's easy, free money, and they're going to get left behind if they don't participate, those are typically the exciting times because that's where all cares get thrown to the side. It becomes degenerate gambling, risk-taking, blah, 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 and that's where we see the prices shoot. So that's where we're at, right on the edge. We'll see if we can get that throughout the weekend and into next week. Fortunately, we got the PCE data right now. There was no real impact to the charts that happened in here. Everything pretty much met expectations. If anything, we saw a little bit of a slight pop here in pre-market over here in the Russell and in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So that, of course, was a concern. Are we going to see something like where we saw CPI, like major miss, and that would impact it? So far in pre-market, it's okay, but we'll see how the rest of the day goes, and we'll see how the market makers decide to close the stock market for the end of August, which is today. So exciting time, but also stressful time. We know we're right on the brink of it, and the next breakout is the breakout of the 2021 all-time high. And currently, we sit right underneath it, twiddling our thumbs, waiting to see if that moment can happen. There's a tremendous amount of favorable conditions already in play, with the Bitcoin dominance falling, with Ethereum back at the highs, the Russell's already through the last retracement levels, the Dow's in the all-time high. It's kind of like that Helene Meisler quote that says, nothing impacts sentiment like price. And it feels like there's one more price level to hit that's going to end up triggering all the sentiment to end up happening. And we're just right on the cusp waiting for that to happen. My thoughts are September is going to be exciting, but of course we got to get through this right here. We got to get through this high anxiety, stressful moment that we're at right here at the high. And then typically once you get through that level, it's the weight of the world is lifted off the shoulders. The crowd pours in, the excitement comes, the risk taking happens, and everything gets really, really exciting. And that's what we're waiting for. And we will be ready to say that moment has happened the second that it actually does. Until then, we just sit here and wait. You guys could check out the newsletter over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com, where we're talking all about waiting for these things, and a lot of them are already firing off. The next newsletter will be published on Sunday, which is 2 days from today from the publishing of this video. So keep your eyes out for that one. It's available over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. And I do audio record all of these after I write them. This most recent one is 26 minutes long. The one published on Sunday will have an audio recording to go with it as well. There are links within the descriptions of all of my videos to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Otherwise, guys, have a wonderful holiday weekend, and I will catch you guys next week in hopefully September. As we get it started, things get really exciting. But we'll wait and see, and we'll check in on it next week. Next month. We're almost there. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.